So hey kids, remember this: if you are not flipping tables and going ballistic over your losses, then you've lost twice. You heard it here first. Is this take making you feel like you are basically a filthy casual and nothing else? Well, you're not wrong to feel this way, because it is a pretty bad take, and we're going to be talking about this here, so have no fear. Senpai's here. Just want to let you all know that I stream every Friday and Sunday on Twitch, and I'm also on other social media platforms like Instagram and Twitter. You can come on board any of those and talk about fighting games and how to get better. So it seems a recent tweet by streaming sensation Ninja has taken the Twitterverse by storm, as the man himself basically took to the popular social media platform to basically essentially say that he doesn't like it when people say that, you know, it's just a game and that you should be getting angry at your losses, and because if you don't do so, then you're accepting defeat and you have basically lost twice. This take is actually quite interesting because it's something that a lot of gamers have said in the past in a multitude of competitive settings. It's something that perpetuates itself a lot across the gaming sphere. So it's not something radically new or different. This is genuinely a very harmful take. It is something that we have been trying to move away from as gamers. It actually takes away from the whole idea that gaming, and competitive gaming at that, is a learning experience. If you are getting angry at your losses, you are essentially attaching a negative emotion to them. So what I would like to do in this video is to basically, first of all, analyze this tweet and explain why it's such a harmful take, and also kind of maybe change it a little bit to make it into something that's useful and helpful. Now, the issue I have with the way that this tweet is spelled out is it's not that I'm just grasping at the things he's saying or the words that he's using. I understand that a lot of this can be construed as metaphorical, but the problem is that most people don't really see it that way. Let's take the final piece of this, which the essentially what he's basically saying is that you need to be angry at your losses. So you should effectively be focused on winning as much as possible. But there is a problem with this. There's a problem with making winning the desirable outcome and the measure by which you are you're standardizing yourself against. Why is this an issue? It's because games, especially competitive games, are in their majority zero-sum games. What this basically means is that there can only ever be a winner and a loser in a game. There's never, you know, everybody's a winner or everybody's a loser or everybody's nothing. There are very few games that are like this, and I really can't think of any off the top of my head. But if you think about it, even in a tournament setting, that is kind of how it is. There's the first place winner, and then there's everybody else that got defeated by this person. And that's just how it is. It's a zero-sum game. So, effectively, is there any way that somebody can become a 100% winner, like winning all the time, or even 90 or 80 or 70%? Turns out actually no. It kind of turns out that the majority of professional players, especially in fighting games, kind of just fall somewhere between the 50 and 60% win rate bracket. I think that, and I think that's actually would be quite surprising to a lot of people, because we never actually think about that. We only think about the wins that our favorite players had, not how often they've had these wins. So it's kind of easy to lose a little bit of perspective on this matter. Also kind of puts a little bit of perspective on your own, right? So if you're sitting at about a 30, 40, 50% win rate, that's actually not very bad if you think about it. So why is this thinking very useful is to understand that you can't win all the time. In fact, you can expect to win approximately half the time, maybe a little bit over, maybe a little bit under. Essentially, losing is part of the game. So with that in mind, we can't really say that putting ourselves up against the standard of winning as much as possible as a healthy thing, especially if we're going to be attaching an emotion to it. And this is the other part of the tweet that really bothers me, is that he's talking about being angry. Anger isn't a very good emotion, turns out.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
And yes, it is a bit of a cliche for Yoda to say this, but it is the truth. Being angry is a very negative emotion that is oftentimes not very helpful. There are quite a few people out there who can channel their anger towards something more positive, but that's not something that you can do on a sustainable basis. In fact, you would actually drive yourself bananas. by just being angry all the time at yourself. Yes, I get it. Ninja is probably being metaphorical here, or he's just trying to be a little edgy, or he's just trying really hard to just make a bad take so people can retweet it, and I get that, I understand that, and we shouldn't be taking it all at face value. But here's the thing, that's what he said, and that is the end of the story. The problem is that Ninja's target audience are younger people, especially somewhere between the 12 to 16-year-old bracket, I would estimate, and people who genuinely do like competitive play and want to get better and need an idol to look up to. But see, that's the thing, is that when you are a fan, you don't really read between the lines that effectively, right? You just basically take everything the other person says as gospel and you just go with it. So we shouldn't be getting angry, right? We should not be getting angry. We shouldn't be doing this kind of thing, because at the end of the day, we're going to lose a lot, and that's going to create this vortex of bad emotions, and we're just going to get sucked into that vortex, and in the end, we're not going to be able to achieve anything that we wanted to. And here's the final part of this tweet that I am not a fan of, because quite honestly, it's a little bit delusional if you think about it. And that is the fact that he's saying that, you know, he doesn't like when people say it's just a game. I understand how you can be offended by something that is your livelihood and being called a game. But then again, I do feel that it kind of is a bit delusional, because it is a game. Like we said earlier, games, especially competitive games, are zero-sum games. So there's always a winner and a loser. So that is always the part of it. But then here's the other thing about games, is that you can never be so perfect as to achieve a 100% win rate, and you can never be 100% at the top. You're sometimes going to do badly, you're sometimes going to do well, and sometimes it's just going to be whatever. There are quite a lot of factors that are at play here. On the one hand, you have your own personal skill, which could be really high, could be really low, it could be somewhere in the middle. But also the way your skill is used is actually kind of variable, because it depends on your mood, it depends on how healthy you are, or how well you're eating, or how well you're sleeping, or what's your state of mind like. There's a lot of things at play. But also the other thing to consider here is that you are also facing other players who are also trying to get better and are also trying to achieve victory, and they're also manipulating the game mechanics, and are also manipulating a lot of other aspects that come into the game. So there are going to be moments where you're either going to get matched up against somebody who is genuinely better than you, or has genuinely been able to use the right strategies that you didn't consider in that moment, or just didn't come into mind. And what does that all allude to? Kind of a little bit of a bunch of luck, right? Because at the end of the day, luck is a factor. And you can say all you want that luck is something that you make, but at the end of the day, you can only reduce that percentage of luck as far before it starts actually working against you. Okay, it's just a game, we shouldn't get angry, and there are other metrics that we should be using to measure our performance. How can we turn this tweet, though, into something that's a little bit more positive? Well, here it goes. Let's start first of all with the metrics that we can use. Like we said already, there are a lot of factors that go into our win rate, and that is the thing that we need to focus on a little bit. So if we want to go, let's say, from 40% to 50%, how can we accomplish this? Taking fighting games as the main driving point here, what are the things that actually we need to be improving on in order to reach that higher win rate? On the one hand, it's improving your knowledge and your skill with the character that you have chosen. There's also how that character plays against the rest of the cast, who are his or her good matchups or bad matchups, what kinds of techniques you need to be using against different characters, what strategies. All of these things are factors that kind of go into your win rate. So if you're improving upon little things that help you win more against certain characters, or little things that enable you to kind of overcome difficult situations in fighting games, your win rate will gradually improve. And it's through these little things that you can start creating your own little metrics. The classic example has always been count how many times you were able to anti-air. But I can give you another example that I tried recently. I was playing Grand Blue Fantasy Versus on Fairy, and I wanted to use her corner setup so I can keep people in the corner for prolonged time, so I can ensure that I win more. So that is something that I was just pushing myself to use as much as possible so I can get used to using it in a match. So that was a metric that I was using to check if I was improving in the game. It didn't matter to me if I was anti-airing as much, or if I was blocking as much. I was trying, of course, in those aspects, but the main thing that I was focused on is, am I using the setup? Am I landing the setup? Am I using it effectively enough? And that is something that I can actually tangibly look into my replays and say, yes, no, maybe, or I can see what I can improve in order to make myself do better with this setup. So, okay, we've been able to set up a metric for ourselves. We've been able to find a way to measure how well we're doing. What is the next thing that we need to consider over here from this tweet is not how we feel. So how do we accomplish that? We look at our replays and we focus on the metric that we said that we were going to focus on. Instead of thinking, oh my god, I lost again and again and again and again, we think of, okay, I didn't do my setup enough. I didn't anti-air enough. I didn't get out of the corner in time, or I let the other person land something. These are all things that are tangible and things that we can actually improve upon. Instead of thinking to ourselves that, you know, we've lost and it's all arbitrary and abstract because there are just a million factors at play there, we are thinking of the one thing that could eventually lead us to more victories. Of course, it's also always important to remember that you're not always going to be winning and you're not always going to be losing as long as you are improving a little bit at a time. And another very important mentality to have here is to ask yourself this: am I better than I was the other day? Even just a little bit. But compare yourself to who you were the other day. That is all that you need really to do. And I know that it's hard and it's very easy to just see all the internet points and the ranked points. If ranked is such a problem for you, go to lobbies. Go play with your friends. There's a bunch of ways to go about it without feeling the pressure of ranking up and all of that stuff. So how can we look at the granddaddy of this entire tweet, the whole debacle about that it's just a game and that's not a good thing? Well, I think the most effective way to look at it is that it is just a game. It is a game, and that's a good thing, because a game isn't just something that's for entertainment. It's something that is meant to be educational. It's supposed to be of personal development, and that goes back like way back in many centuries ago, when all we had was just ancient forms of chess. And those things were always not just platforms for competition, but also platforms for interaction with others and for personal improvement. If there's one thing that I do agree with Ninja here, is that games are not just an entertainment platform, or they're not just for kiddies or something that should not be taken seriously. You should be taking them seriously. It's just that there is a difference between flipping tables and taking something seriously. So what's your take on all of this, guys? How did you feel about the way that Ninja interprets the whole idea of it just being a game? Do you think that you should be angry and flipping tables in order to win more? Why don't you let me know in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere else you want, or join me on my stream every Friday and Sunday. We can talk about fighting games and learn how to get better at fighting games together. Hope you all enjoyed this video and you learned something from this. I'm going to catch you next time. Keep on fighting.